G'day, how are you doing? Hopefully doing very well, keeping healthy and safe. I've been very busy, but overall pretty good. Today we are going to have a look at the new Lenovo Yoga Pro 7. Now this is Gen 8 and this is a 14-inch laptop. Now as for what kind of class it is, as Lenovo have actually been trying to move the Yoga range a little bit more premium. You feel better, nice material, more premium feel of the material. And as for the actual components, you are kind of now starting to bridge between your consumer range to your mobile workstation range. So this is a kind of a new, sort of new market stepping in there. I'm starting to see some manufacturers doing the same thing, and this is what the Yoga Pro 7 is kind of moving towards. So they do come in two different versions. You get the Intel version, and in some countries you actually will see that it will be called the Pro 7i. Now as for the AMD version, it's just named as the Pro 7, so you won't have any extra letters on that one there, just to let you know. Now we are going to have a look at the temperature and fan noise. We'll also look at some of the performance, and I'll have a quick peek of the internals and look at the features. And as always, I will be putting timestamps on this video so I can skip to a different section that may be interesting to save you time. So let's get started. The display is a 14.5-inch display. Now there are three options for the display. There is a 2.5K resolution option, and there's also a 3K option. Now the one I tested had a 3K. There does come with a touch and non-touch version. They all have IPS, and with the 3K display, it does have a maximum brightness of 400 nits. Now, the non-touch one is a matte finish, and the touch one, which are the one I tested, had a glossy finish. They all have an aspect ratio of 16:10. The 3K display does have a refresh rate of 120 Hz. I did test out the 3K glossy display in direct sunlight, and I didn't have any issues at all consuming multimedia or working on documents, even with that glossy display which had a lot of reflections. Now the 400 nits was able to cut straight through it, and I still had very good clarity, and also can even see the colors, no problems at all, even with the screen in the direct sunlight. Measuring the color gamut coverage of the 3K display, it resulted with 99.6% sRGB coverage, 85.3% Adobe RGB coverage, and 95.4% DCI-P3 coverage. The display is suited for video and photo editing tasks. This is a recording from the 1080p webcam from the Yoga Pro 7i. This is the video and audio unedited, so you can hear and see what the quality webcam is like. And as always for this test, I've got two top lights to turn on. I've got one studio light turn on, and also the downlights in this room turn on for ambience. Now I'm going to turn off my one studio light off, and you'll see this hopefully just now. The two downlights in front of me, one is a bit half covered and the other is actually a bit far away, so there's not much light hitting on my face. This is what I consider a dark environment. If you're in an office environment, you should have much more light than what I'm currently at. And of course I'm going to turn my one studio back on again, and of course better quality light should give you better quality picture. Now for me, I judge when I have actually good light here, it is actually quite sharp, it's got good vibrance, and I find the exposure quite nice. And of course, there is also a privacy shutter. Now it is an E shutter. Now on the right hand side of the Yoga Pro 7, there is a webcam button there which you can flick on. So it is a button. There is no lever. You don't actually see anything that covers the webcam, but it basically disables the webcam when you actually switch that webcam button. There are 4 speakers in total. There are 2 located on either side of the laptop, and the other 2 are located on the bottom on either side of the front of the laptop. Now when I tested at the maximum volume of the speakers, it managed to measure a peak of 85.5 decibels. Now I actually consider this in the middle ground compared to other laptops. As for the sound quality of the speakers, these are nice sounding speakers for a Windows laptop. We've got quite a bit of bass. There is punchy bass too, with a nice range in the low range, and we all have a very nice clarity with the mids and highs. It is more balanced towards the mids with the bass backing it up, and we have very nice reverb and also acoustics. And in truth, these speakers have nothing to be ashamed of. The Yoga Pro 7i is completely made of aluminium. So we've got a very nice smooth feeling aluminium palm rest, and you got the curvatures of each edges. Oof, absolutely gorgeous to feel. And the back cover is also aluminium, and your also bottom back cover down here is also aluminium. It just has a very premium feel to it. You can just see it. And this very interesting sort of teal color. It's a bit of what I would say, a bit of like a sort of darky blue, and also with a tinge of green in this. It's just a very nice, interesting color there. So unfortunately, I just can't see it through the cameras, but I definitely loved. If you can see one of these in person, you guys find it very interesting. Actually, it does definitely stand out there. Now, as for the actual build quality, let's have a look. I'm just doing a bend test. I don't think I'm going to be bending this for very much. Twist test, no, they're not going to be twisting that much. This is really taking quite a good sturdy here. And as for having looked at, now a lot of people ask me, why do I actually do this? Well, actually try and see. That's just because sometimes if you don't have very good structure, and if things starts hitting on it, even on the inside, this is also part of the holding structure of for the back and the front here. So the middle part is probably should be the strongest part, and it doesn't really have much bend. And if you don't see anything that's wrong with this side, which means we've got a very good structurally built chassis. So absolutely great, and that's where it also has to hold those fans as well to end the system board. So that's why I kind of do this test, just to have a look at what it is, just for the flexor keyboard. Now, of course, as you type, if you get a very flexy one, it's not going to type very good, but I know for Lenovo, they make fantastic keys boards, and you just have very good feel to it. You've got nice key travel, and it's got nice sort of tactile feel to each keys. Just got no problems there. You'll love the Lenovo keyboards when you actually touch it as well too. It's quite nice large keys as well. Now, as for the hinge test, we're going to have a look at this hinge test here. I'm going to just do a one finger test here, so we'll just do very smooth. I think it goes to about, I want to say, nearly 90 degrees. Then you might need a little bit extra hand. I'm just going to give a little bit of a wiggle here, but most of the time you just need to just give it a little hand to it. So now it does about 180 degrees here, so that's how far it can open. And when it actually opens here, it doesn't use the bottom part of the display to actually lift it up, as we've got a bit of already the footing on the bottom here, which is already raises it up, so the actual bottom of the laptop can actually breathe already. So overall, nice. I love it. Now we're going to test out these Thunderbolt 4 ports, how much power it can draw. For those that's interested, now I've got the 140 watt power adapter connected to my monitoring tool. I'll just connect that to the Thunderbolt 4. As I can see, I do have load on this computer just to try and draw as much power as possible. Now I can see it goes up to 127 watts that it is pulling from the charger. Now I'm just going to test out the other port here, the one above it, and we'll get that connected. And again, 127 watts is the maximum power draw you can get from this Thunderbolt 4 ports on both of them. The Yoga Pro 7i Gen 8 does come with a 73 watt-hour battery. And when I test out the battery life, I managed to get 10 hours and 30 minutes for the Modern Office battery life test in PC Mark 10, 1 hour and 14 minutes for gaming, and 12 hours and 33 minutes for video playback on the Procom battery life test. I consider the Yoga Pro 7i all-day battery life, and taking into account that it actually has a discrete graphics, wow. I'm actually very surprised by how well it fared in the battery life test. It actually beat some of the computers that don't even have a discrete graphics. The weight of the Yoga Pro 7i is 1.63 kilos, plus the 140 watt power adapter becomes a combined weight of 2.09 kilos that you might be carrying around with you. As for the temperatures and fan noise, when I took my measurement, my ambient temperature in the room was 19 degrees Celsius. And before we get started, as always, around about 19 degrees Celsius, my hand on average, to give you a reference point, was anywhere between 33 to 34 degrees Celsius. So it can hopefully gives you an idea how hot or how cool this laptop could be. So I took my base measurement when the computer was idle, and the hottest area around the keyboard measured a maximum of 30 degrees Celsius. As for the fan noise, it was practically silent, so it stayed at 35 decibels. And the average internal core temperature was 37 degrees Celsius. Then I put 20% load on the computer, which is pretty much average use. So it's tasks like office productivity work, surfing the web, streaming video, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a maximum of 37 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, you do hear a little bit of it and hit a maximum of 38 decibels. And the average internal core temperature was 53 degrees Celsius. Then I put 50% load on computer, and the hottest area around the keyboard measured in the exact same as 20% load at 37 degrees Celsius. As for the fan, it did spin up a little tad more, so it hit a maximum of 39 decibels, and the average internal core temperature was actually a little bit lower because of the fan speed, hit an average of 52 degrees Celsius. Then I put 100% load on the Yoga, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a maximum of 49 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan, it spun all the way up to 46 decibels, and the average internal core temperature was 94 degrees Celsius. I also measured the bottom back cover while it's at 100% load on it, and the hottest area around the back cover measured a maximum of 49 degrees Celsius. That's pretty much the chassis, although you do see a 57 degrees Celsius, but that really is just the thermal camera shooting directly straight through and hitting the heat pipes there. Now for me, the actual temperature is pretty decent, considering that with 50% load, it's pretty much, you don't really feel that much heat coming from the laptop. Once you get to 100% load, you do feel a bit, and that's because you do have some very powerful components, both the processor and also the discrete graphics. And now we're going to have a look at the processor performance over long duration time in the Yoga Pro 7i. Now this one's configured with an i7-13700H processor, and looking at Intel website reports that this processor has a maximum turbo boost for the performance cores at 5 GHz and the efficiency cores a maximum turbo boost of 3.7 GHz. And Windows reports it has a base clock speed of 2.4 GHz. So we do want to see it at 2.4 GHz or above for thermal throttling. Now I've got this computer on quite a lot of load, so it's pretty much 100% on the processor and memory, and quite a lot of load on storage, and also in the graphics, discrete graphics and the internal graphics as well. Quite a load for nearly 3 hours, and I can see that the processor is ranging anywhere between, let's say, about 2.2 to about 2.4 to all the way up to about 3.9 gigahertz. Now it does have quite a bit of a range. Now you also see that I've noticed that it has a cycle as well. So it does what I would say a bit of a rest cycle, and then it goes up to a lot faster, the high performance speed. Now the high performance speed, as you'll see just at the moment, it's just doing that right now. You'll see it goes to about 3.8 gigahertz, and it tries to stay there for about 30 to 40 seconds, and then it will slowly come back down to around about 2.2 to about 2.4 gigahertz. Tries to keep it quickly to about 2.4 gigahertz, so it tries to keep the base clock speed, and that would rest, and it's a very range of anywhere between 10 to about 30 seconds. You'll see the rest period, and then it will quickly ramp itself back up again. Now when it does this rest period, it is around about what I'll say about anywhere between 73 to about 76 degrees Celsius, and as for when it gets up to ramping really high up, you'll probably go all up to about 94 degrees Celsius. And you see these cycles that does the sort of cycles. So this laptop is also quite, I would say, quite thin, and it's not really a mobile workstation, and it's still getting close to a mobile workstation. So it still does a pretty decent job, and this is over for long duration of time. Here's the results of the benchmarks performed on the Yoga Pro 7i Gen 8. This one's configured with an i7-13700H processor with 16 gigs of RAM, 1TB SSD, and also the Nvidia Geforce RTX 4050 graphics. And here's the results for Passmark, Citybench R23, PC Mark, 3D Mark, Crystal Disk Mark, Geekbench 5, Procon Office, Procon Photo Edit, Procon Video Edit, Fusion Photoshop, Fusion Lightroom, Fusion Premiere Pro, Fusion DaVinci Resolve, Blender, Furmark, Luxmark, Octane Bench, Eugene Engine, and SpecView Pref. And some gaming benchmarks like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, Cyberpunk 2077, and F1 2022. Let's have a look at internals. First off, we need to undo the 6 corkscrew screws and then you need to pry it open. Now, my suggestion for prying it open is start from around about behind the hinge and work your way all the way around. Now, I pre-undid this to speed up time. And for those who are interested to see what on the other side of the back cover, this is what it looks like. And we've got the 73 watt-hour battery at the bottom, and we've got the battery connector right here. So if you need to disconnect the battery, if you're working on the computer or just troubleshooting power, this is the connector for the battery. On the left-hand side of it is the Wi-Fi Bluetooth module, and on the right-hand side is the M.2 storage or SSD, and as you can see, it is a 2280 format, and it is sealed by heat with this foil, so to help with containing the heat and also to try and transfer it as well. And the memory is soldered to the system board. Now, there are 2 configurations. There are 16 gigs or a 32 gigs. Now, you must make sure you actually choose the correct one, as you can't upgrade that later on. And of course, we've got 2 system fans, and we've got a twin heat pipe as well running along. Overall, the Lenovo Pro 7i is a very nice, decent laptop. We got this very premium feel with it. Just love the actual color of this new teal color. Unfortunately, you can't see through the camera. You got to see it in person. It's just very interesting there. And I love the nice feel of this aluminum with these nice little curvatures on each end. Now you got no really edges biting into it. It just has a very good feel to it. And yeah, it feels very sturdy. It will last for quite a long time. So very durable there. And we have a very nice display which has very good clarity, and the brightness which is can easily work in the sun. I didn't have any issue even with the glossy display, which helps with the clarity, and it is very vibrant. And we have got good color reproduction as well, so it definitely works for those professionals. And we have a very trustworthy keyboard, which I always love with Lenovo keyboards. And we've got a good trackpad, which is mechanical and nice and large for those who have got very decent sounding speakers. This has not cut any edges here at all. Lenovo, absolute fantastic. Good selection of ports, so I don't have to carry dongles. Love it. Absolute good webcam, which has a very nice high def, and I think it did pretty well in my test there for that. And as for the performance, we have very decent performance. It's actually quite controlled, and most of the time does very good, surprisingly very good battery life, even with a discrete graphics. So I can easily recommend the Lenovo Yoga Pro 7i for either play or even for work. This is one of, I say, is great in this category for maybe work from home. Definitely decent at all. Now, hopefully you find this video informative and enjoy it. If you did even support my channel, smash that like button for me. Share this video as well. It does help me out. And as always, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. And I'll see you next video.